My name is Alice Flanders. I'm one of the co-producers for Cincinnati Underground Secret Society with Travis McElroy. Usually, when we're not in the middle of a pandemic, that means that we have a secret live show once a quarter. They used to, when we did them in person, take place at the 20th Century, which is a very cool historic theater in Oakley, in Cincinnati, and Travis would bring in Travis McElroy from the Adventure Zone and from My Brother and Me, and the McElroy family would bring in guests like we had Nicole Thurman come in, we've had Tybee Diskin come in, we've had Patrick Rothfuss, who wrote the Kingkiller Chronicles, come in, we've had Tawny Newsome come in. There's a lot of different people that we get to have come in, and it's a lot of fun. It's a comedy show. Oh, yay! Cuss is how someone found she. I love that. Cuss is a great thing. We're really sad that we don't get to do it in person right now, but we did get to have one live stream in April, and we're hoping to be able to do something before the end of the year. Fingers crossed. I miss you all a lot. I miss getting to see people in person. Awesome. Carolyn, I'm going to swing it back to you, I think.
Excellent. All right, so can everyone still see the presentation?
Yes.
Cool. All right. So our first question is, what is an activist archetype? Kind of a weird thing that we came up with. Just, I think, a shower thought. I was like, all right, well, let's go with this. So, you all can read this, but archetypes are folks that are types of roles that you're going to see over and over in fiction. You've got like the classic hero story, or you'll see below like the orphan, Harry Potter. Orphans show up a lot in literature. The mentor, other folks. So these are types of characters that you are probably really familiar with from either literature or movies or TV. And what we try to do with these archetypes is, how do we apply that to who we are, our personality, as activists? So this presentation is really going to talk about how do you leverage, those preferences, skills, leanings that you have into actually taking action. And of course, stop me if you have any questions. So, and I do see a question over here, just says yes. Excellent. So has everyone had a chance to take the quiz? I did drop this in the Facebook event, but if you haven't, now is a really good time to do that. If you have, you can go ahead and say yes in the chat or give me a thumbs up. Either way will work. I'm going to ask you all to go to menti.com again, using that same code if you need to. I'm going to copy and paste that one more time. And I'd like you to just tell me what person you got for your archetype. All right, and now are you seeing that that screen that shows you as people are coming in? All right. So we've got 3 mages and 1 rogue. I'm not surprised we have a lot of mages at all. Okay, so we're going to go over all of them, just so you have a sense of what other folks might, be like as activists. But I will spend more time on the mage and rogue for you. So first up, we have our ranger archetype. So if you took the quiz and you didn't poke around and look at the other archetypes, rangers are really good at scouting ahead and supporting from behind. They create structure and organization that moves things forward. These folks are natural project managers. So if you know anyone who's really good at making sure a project gets done, these are rangers. So I have a few examples of rangers on screen, but I was wondering if anyone had thought or could think of other folks in pop culture who would fit this archetype. Link for the quiz. I will drop it in there for you. And if you want to just plug your ideas into the chat, I know we kind of took a lot of time doing introductions and things, so I'm actually going to move to the next slide while you think about that and let Alex and Alice take over.
Awesome. I'm going to do that terrible thing and read the slide that is in front of you, but I always do this for PowerPoint presentations. So Rangers, take action. Since Rangers are best at the behind-the-scenes support, choose a cause and Google people who are already doing the work so you can join them and help to raise awareness. For example, I might care deeply about the effects of gentrification on local neighborhoods. After a little research on Google, I find that one of the best ways to combat gentrification is to fight for sustainable, affordable housing. Then all I have to do is look up what's being done in my area to fight for affordable housing, send an email introducing myself and asking how I can help, and boom, I'm in charge of the PR team for a ballot initiative to fully fund my city's Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And this is based on a true story, because while I am definitely a rogue mage hybrid at heart, I'm also an overachiever who embodies Leslie Knope and cross-stitches presents for her friends at a moment's notice. But this is something that I am a big proponent of, making sure that there's always someone working on the thing that you are interested in, and a quick Google will help you find those people and back them up, which I think is so good for the Ranger archetype. You're muted, Carolyn.
I'll unmute myself. Sorry, I'm like, oh, okay. Here we go. So our next one is the tank. I didn't see any tanks in our group. But tanks are those folks who are on the front line. Those are the people who are at protests. They are often on the picket line. They do door-to-door canvassing. These people will not say no to really hard tasks. So if you can think of someone, another pop culture icon that would fit this archetype, I encourage you to plug that on into the chat. I am doing this out of slightly selfish motivation because I'd like to add some more folks to our website as examples. So definitely think about that. And I'm going to move on to Alice with her example.
I forgot to unmute myself. I'm so glad that Google warns you when you do that. I'm trying to think of a good tank archetype, and honestly what popped into my head was just, I'm not 100% sure why, but Cece from New Girl. I feel like she is, yeah, I'm surprised that that's what popped into my head, but I think that she is an interesting take on a tank. So again, gonna read. Tanks take action. Tanks show up on the front line. Have you seen what's going on in Portland? The incredible people who have watched protests in Hong Kong and learned how to negate tear gas and rubber bullets as best they can? These are the tanks. Right now, tanks are amazing people to have on your team. If I were a tank, I might look into some ballot initiatives or possible candidates that need signatures collected, realizing that we are in a pandemic and it's even harder than normal to collect those signatures. I might reach out and help organize petition signing events or call upon my own circle to let me drive to their house and get their signatures while I sit on the porch and say a quick hello to their puppy dogs. Tanks definitely love puppy dogs. Other things, I think that being a tank is a little bit harder in the middle of a pandemic because the thing that tanks do is show up, and it's so hard to show up right now. Laura got tanks, so I can talk directly to you. It's so hard to show up right now when there might be an underlying health reason that you can't leave the house, or because you take care of an older relative, or even just we're in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic and it's scary to be in a crowd, or the crowds aren't there in your neighborhood or in your area because of limitations on attendance for public gatherings and things like that. But being a tank also counts for showing up where it matters as you're by yourself too. So things like showing up and passing out yard signs for a candidate. There we go. Oh, my brain. We get to 6 o'clock and it turns off. A candidate that you support, or making the phone calls, being the person that signs up for phone banking, or being a person who makes sure all your friends are registered to vote. The tanks show up.
Awesome. Yeah. So I sometimes have to channel the tank when I am door-to-door canvassing or doing like get out the vote lit drops, because I am not a tank, but I have to find that energy inside myself.
Agreed. It takes some doing from me too.
So next up we have our rogue. So rogues are the folks who are running the event. They're coordinating things. They can be either introverted or extroverted. You enjoy groups, but like I said, if you're introverted, you might just enjoy like a smaller group. Or you might want a big group where you can connect to a lot of people. The other thing they're great at is blending in seamlessly to any situation. So extra selfishly, I'm asking for suggestions for the rogue archetype because, as you can imagine, a lot of the examples that I was finding were typical white male characters. So you're like Han Solo types and Indiana Jones and those kinds of people. A lot of Harrison Ford characters apparently are rogues. 007. So yes, I love these suggestions. So I'm definitely going to be adding more. But here I have Agent Carter, Peggy Carter. And then if anyone has seen The Americans, this is one of the characters from The Americans who is a spy, a Russian spy pretending to be an American. These are great, great suggestions in the comments.
All right. Apparently, I'm just stuck on Star Wars and Marvel, but that's where I'm normally stuck. So, hey, rogues take action. I might be part rogue, but I'm not too proud to say thank goodness for the rogues. The rogues are often the ones fighting from inside the system. They're the political staffers convincing their boss to listen to the demands from young people. They're AOC, sitting in Congress convincing her fellow members of the importance of things like the Green New Deal. Rogues are also the ones convincing family members that organizations like Black Lives Matter exist to make the world better for everyone. They're the ones reminding their friends to order takeout from restaurants instead of sitting in, and handing the mask to their roommate who sometimes forgets before they leave the house. I forget my mask constantly, and it's now keys, phone, wallet, mask. My rogue side is the side using every outlet I have to keep momentum going in this movement. It makes lists of actions I can take, but also that I can send to my friends to remind them that the work isn't over. My rogue side is definitely big into taking care of the activism of my friends and sometimes convincing them that they still have to be working. Especially my boyfriend is very much a cis straight white guy who he'll get worried about things, but doesn't necessarily always do the research to do the next step. So it's a lot of that, hey, I already did this research. You do these things. Before you freak out about this, you have to sign this petition, send this letter to a senator, and pass this on to your sister or something like that. So I think rogues are big into working. I mean, I keep going to the idea of spies. Rogues are big into working from the inside and making sure that the things that they need to get done without alienating the people around them. I'm also mage, and I definitely am an alienating force, so I have to channel the rogue part of me when I need to talk to people who don't necessarily agree with me. All right, your turn, Carolyn.
Excellent. Well, that's a great transition into the mage archetype. So I saw a lot of you had scored on the mage. And these choices are researchers and overall knowledge seekers. They will deep dive into subjects, and then they'll write blog posts and share all the facts. So we really appreciate these folks for doing all the research. You believe that one well-timed spell can be incredibly effective, so you think about the best timing for sharing your information as well. You're also unafraid of a social media battle with strangers. So these are some tough folks. And my two examples here are Hermione, which some folks have mentioned, and also Shuri, who is, I think, the most brilliant person in the Marvel universe. And you can fight me if you don't believe that. She is like probably one of my top favorite characters ever because she is just so, like, I have a brother, so I feel her deep in my soul when I need to make fun of my brother a little bit, like she does. So, yeah, and we're gonna move on to how you all take action.
Awesome. I have a mage suggestion. I think Moon Girl. Moon Girl's definitely a mage. Awesome. So mages take action. We've gotten to the mages. Truly, my people. The mages argue. They debate. They research. They might make the dinner table a little uncomfortable on Thanksgiving, but they do it because they love too hard to see their friends and family be wrong. Mages know how to call their representatives, but they also know how scary it can be to call elected officials. So they'll do it first and talk their friends through exactly what happened and how to do it. They're happy to learn. They thrive buried in, oh no, there's a spelling error. 30, not 30. Buried in 30 open tabs with news articles and MLA formatting their social media posts. My own personal mage comes out in lists. I spent the last few months writing out a few actionable items every day and posting it to my Instagram story. They're usually 5 to 7 items that may take between 10 and 40 minutes combined, but can be spread throughout the day. It helps keep me accountable, and it also helps me remind my friends that something can and should be done every single day. I also, for mages, love the idea of a well-timed spell because, Alex, not to throw you on the spot, but Alex is in charge of our social media for the Cincinnati Underground Secret Society, and she's very good at making sure she knows when to post things, what to post when. Alex, if you want to talk about that at all, please. I think you have a little mage in you.
Yeah. I was actually hoping that you might loop me in on this because mages are truly my people. I'm a big fan of using, because I've always been kind of the introverted, bookish, research, write it out type. So using social media from that point of view helps. I think like scheduling certain things, like being able to schedule certain things at times that you know where people might see it. There's a little bit of like really fascinating marketing that I think can get into kind of to being a mage, like the idea of like what will actually make somebody look at something and how to use that for good. Like specifically on I'm working on it for Cuss right now, that we have a lot of Black Lives Matter action items coming up. And on my own personal Instagram, I've realized through some analytics for my other job that on Wednesdays, that's the best time to post. So another thing that you can do as a mage is letter writing is a big deal, like letter writing campaigns. So every Wednesday, and I think soon to be Monday now, is when I post things and I'm like, this is the day that I'm writing for Breonna Taylor, leave your name if you want it. And that's when I send postcards out. So mages, as far as using, I feel like we're pretty much, as far as well-timed spells, like Alice said, we're pretty much the wizards and witches of knowing the correct way to use whether an Instagram post or a postcard for the most good that we possibly can for the most people too.
Yeah, agreed. And Alex, I think, has gotten to like 30 postcards in a week. It's just a huge stack. It's amazing. Daniel Cameron gets a lot of mail from Alex.
I harass them a whole lot, and it's not going to stop.
Yeah.
Excellent. So up next, we have our supporter and healer types. So I think that I'm probably a ranger, but my like subclass is a supporter healer, or I multi-class as a supporter healer. So healers do their best when taking direct action, like organizing food drive or creating content to support others in the fight. You often share self-care memes and fact-check news stories as well. So the folks that I've put up here mostly are actually not just like supporter healer types in the shows that they're like as like an archetype, but they're also like actually healing people on the shows too. So we've got Rosario Dawson from all the Defender shows on Marvel, Ann Perkins from Parks and Rec, and Katara from oh my gosh, why am I always blanking on this show? The Last Airbender. Yeah. And so I think they're all really good representations of folks who are supporting folks on the ground who create things. You know, Rosario Dawson definitely created a lot of connections for all the characters on those shows. And I personally have a soft spot in my heart for healer types.
Okay, before I read this, I have a question. Do we think that Taika Waititi's robot in The Mandalorian is a supporter healer type? I cannot remember his name. I remember he's an IG unit, but
I can agree with that. I love that very much.
Nice. Awesome. So supporters / healers take action. Let me ask what we're all thinking. Have you been hydrating and eating your vegetables? The healers are the mom friend. They want you to take your meds and they want you to sign this petition they found. You know what mom friends are amazing at? Helping to form and run mutual aid programs. Mutual aid is what has kept Minneapolis thriving for the past few months. It's what has kept many families afloat during the COVID-19 crisis, and it's exactly within the many talents of the healers. A healer might Google to find out if there are mutual aid programs already in their city and join in with them, or they might start their own. Mutual aid can be funding, like the bail funds that happened during the height of the protests. It can be making lunch for local school-aged kids. This happened a lot, especially back in March when schools were canceled all of a sudden. A lot of kids rely on school for their meal for the day, for their big lunch or for their big breakfast. And a lot of people came together, including CPS reached out to a lot of people, but to make lunches and to distribute them to kids so that they got their meal that they were used to. Let's see. It can be bringing water bottles and masks to our unhoused neighbors on hot days. There's a huge movement going on right now because we are hitting, not in Cincinnati right now, thank goodness, but over the weekend it's been very, very hot. And sorry, my phone just lit up and I'm easily distracted. I'm going to turn it over. And one of the easiest ways to provide mutual aid is buying a case of water bottles and a box of disposable masks and passing them out to unhoused neighbors. Usually in your urban area is where there's a huge or a large, oh no, what's the word I'm looking for? A large population of unhoused people. Yeah.
Before we move on, I just wanted to mention, I think a lot of people have mentioned like they are more than one of the archetypes, and just like in Dungeons and Dragons or in any other RPG, you can definitely multi-class. So if you feel drawn to more than one of these, that's totally valid. All right.
Awesome. So this is a list of a lot of different resources. They kind of run the gamut for what they can what they can offer. So the first one is, it's called PSRE. It's Public Safety Reimagined, and this is specifically for Cincinnati, but there's a lot of these sort of programs going on across America right now. And this one in particular is about getting an initiative on the ballot in November for Cincinnati to vote on reimagining public safety. So a lot of early June messaging basically around the protest and the Black Lives Matter movement was defunding the police, which may sound like a scary sentence, but in reality, it's just the police are doing too much right now. They're in charge of too many things and they simply do not have the capacity for what they're in charge of. Public Safety Reimagined takes things that don't belong on police officers' plates off of their plates and puts them where they do belong. So for example, if someone is having a mental health break, instead of sending a police officer to do a wellness check, it's sending a mental health professional. It's sending someone who understands how to deal with a psychotic break or a manic break or a depressive episode. And it is potentially likely more healthy for the individual who requires the wellness check. Another thing that you can do that I have on here is supporting a hopefully female candidate that you would like to see in office. Text bank for them. Like I said, you can figure out how to donate a little bit of money to them. You can put a sign in your yard. You can talk them up to your friends and family. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this. There's also, like I mentioned, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in Cincinnati. There's a ballot initiative that's going to go on, hopefully, if we get enough signatures, the May 2021 ballot that fully funds the trust fund, fully funds the trust fund and allows for Cincinnati to build more public housing options. And it would, the way that it's set up, it would stay public housing and affordable housing in perpetuity. Because what we need right now is more options for affordable housing. You can go there and they require some people to help with social media. They need people to help with a storytelling initiative for unhoused people to tell their stories. They need people to help with collecting signatures. There's all sorts of different ways to get involved there that match a lot of the different archetype things that we've been talking about during this. I also have letters for Black Lives on here. Like Alex mentioned, letter writing campaigns are super important. And this is, it's both the personal and the political. So it's got options for writing to your Aunt Bev, who might not agree with you on some things, to help start that dialogue. It also has options for writing to Daniel Cameron about getting justice for Breonna Taylor. That runs the gamut on how you can involve yourself as a writer. There's also, like we mentioned, mutual aid. This is a mutualaid.card.co is a collection of a lot of different mutual aid areas. There's also a place called, or a website called mutualaidhub.com that I had been using, and recently it got, like, it set off my McAfee security alarm, so I didn't want to put it in the PowerPoint just in case, but if you Google it and it seems like it's being safe, then it was a good resource when I was using it. There's also the Coalition Against Hate. Oh no, I have to remember. Oh yeah, the Coalition Against Hate. I have so many different resources up at any given moment, but the Coalition Against Hate is a group in Cincinnati that collects and tries to do something about hate crimes. So it allows us to, statistics are super important. So it allows for people who have been the victim of a hate crime to report that hate crime to someone other than the police if you don't necessarily feel like the police are the place to go, or if they're not necessarily doing what you need them to be doing about it. It gives you a place to report that hate crime, and it gives you resources to work past whatever that hate crime might be, or to work with your community to make sure it doesn't happen again. It also has volunteer opportunities. I'm not 100% sure what the volunteer opportunities are during the COVID time, but I'm sure that they have adapted just like everyone else has. Another place that you can do, or that you can place your energy, is the Cincinnati Black United Front. They currently, I don't know if y'all know about the collaborative agreement, but that happened in 2002. Yes, 2002, after the 2001 riots because of Timothy Thomas's murder. Iris Rowley is the woman who kind of took charge of the original collaborative agreement. It was a really progressive reimagining of how the police force worked with the neighborhoods. It has since kind of, we've grown to need something new. So Cincinnati Black United Front Leaders of the Free World is helping Iris to rewrite a new collaborative agreement, to refresh the collaborative agreement for these times. They're very cool, and they send out PSRE Cincinnati, and they send out a newsletter too. If you want to sign up for their newsletter, the email is there. And then just a kind of huge list of anti-racism resources, including updating lists of petitions, which is kind of, it's one of my favorite ways to get involved, especially during the pandemic, because it allows me to, if I'm feeling anxious about something and like I haven't done enough that day, it gives me an outlet that is actually useful and that is not, it's something that I can do in the middle of other tasks if I have a very busy day. Often when I start thinking about how I'm not doing enough, I start to spiral. And this lets me go, okay, I'm not doing enough. I need to do something. Right now, when I have 2 minutes, I'm going to look up a couple of petitions that I can sign, and then it's back in my head as something that I can spend my time on, and I don't feel like, well, if I'm not doing 30 things, then I might as well do nothing, which is where my brain can go when I spiral too far. Yeah, those are the resources that I have for here. That is bit.ly/bringthefire. It's a huge doc. It's got a lot of DC, Washington, DC resources, but it also has a lot of national resources.
So,
and again, this is going to be me reading, but it's a small caveat. I try to say this as much as I possibly can. I am a very vocal person, and I like to tell people what I'm doing to make sure that they feel comfortable talking about what they're doing. And obviously, you're all amazing people if you're a part of Superheroines, etc. And obviously, you're all doing the work if you're here at this session. But please remember that CUS, which is Cincinnati Underground Secret Society, is run by two well-meaning white ladies. We do our research and we make sure that we are learning from Black, Indigenous, and POC voices. But whenever you're stepping up to get involved, make sure that you're prioritizing groups with BIPOC leadership, female and non-binary leadership, LGBTQ+ leadership. I'm a cis straight white lady, and while I do still have to fight for myself in a lot of places, right now is the time to fight for other people by following their lead. If you're fighting for a community, you need to be doing what the community is asking of you. Alex seems like she wants to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to come in like that because that's a really amazing point that she makes, is that CUS is very close to both of our hearts, but we are two white ladies and we're doing our best. But something that is actually coming up in the next week that's going to be on the CUS Instagram, and this is not, you don't have to follow us for this. Like, this isn't like a follow us for activism. Like, don't feel like you're pressured, but I'm trying to gather resources of people specifically for Instagram that you can follow, specifically for Instagram and Twitter that you can follow, that are LGBTQ+ voices, BIPOC voices, like everybody like that, so you can actually have them in your feed and in your face more often than you might have beforehand. So if you need like a little bit of a guide in the right direction for that, I'll have that up soon too. And like I said, you don't have to follow us for anything. That would be super gross if I was like, come get this, but that will be there.
Oh, I guess I should preview that we are currently working on our next Heroines Handbook. It's been in the works for a long time. So we are addressing climate change in our handbook. And it's going to have all sorts of really awesome practical tips on how to take action in your personal life, at work, at home, and then on a bigger platform for taking like activist actions to really actually, because it's really the big companies that are making the biggest impact on our climate. And so this guide is really about leveling up from doing small things at home to taking action worldwide. So that concludes our presentation. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And now is a great time to open up for questions.
Yeah.
All right, any questions? So like CUS, Superheroines, etc.'s main leadership is currently run by two cisgender white ladies. I'm speaking on behalf of Whitney, who can definitely correct me if I'm speaking out of turn. But we were founded by a wide group of diverse folks, and we are currently recruiting for board members. So if that is something that gets you excited, like becoming a board member is very exciting. We are always looking for folks who want to put in the extra effort and help us grow and take more actions and do more things like this, because it's really hard to do it with only 2 current board members.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us. It's been a really good time, and I hope that everybody, if nothing else, got to kind of like learn a little bit about something else that they could do that they haven't been doing. I really appreciate everybody coming.